I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and we need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely.
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh, no. Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal, catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. This is round number 11 of the season, coming to you today from Rudskogen. My name is Maunz. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Adam Thompson, and in the virtual production holo we have Daniel Zippy Salmon. And now, Adam, I had a whole intro written out talking about the complexities of this very odd racetrack, and how it's basically Norway's only major racing circuit, but it would appear that we're playing host to an amphibious race today instead of a usual round of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors. Rain playing a huge role in this qualifying session that we're in the midst of right now, so this track, difficult on its own, but throw rain into the mix, and we've got a really intriguing race on our hands today.
Well, you know, Ron, I'm going to steal your joke. You said this is now host to the World Powerboat Championships, and that's exactly what these guys look like right now going around on track. The spray has got to be unimaginable, and just imagine, I don't even know how many cars we have on the grid, but I guarantee you we've got way more than what's showing on the screen there, so the spray is going to be crazy going into turn 1. And this track is obviously a newer track here on iRacing, a few, well, probably 3 or 4 seasons old, and I don't know, I mean, I've run Miatas around here, but I don't know how the Formula Fords are going to cope. There's quite a bit of elevation change, and you know, when there is a lot of elevation change, you're going to get a lot of puddles down there at the bottoms of these hills. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, especially come race time.
Yeah, some corners around this racetrack, it's going to be like these drivers are wading through a lake, so it's going to be a really rough going for some of these drivers. And as you just mentioned, Adam, somewhat newer track in the world of iRacing. I think it was introduced a couple of years ago. However, it hasn't really gotten a whole lot of use in the world of iRacing. I remember a couple seasons ago, it played host to the Formula Ford and Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors, but playing host to this round here, coming towards the end of this season as well. And in the midst of this qualifying session right now, you can see Julian Ditchburn at the top of the poll as it stands at the moment on the provisional poll. As it stands currently, 1 minute 38.265, so that's a pretty good lap time for the Canadian. Speaking of that race here for the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors a couple of seasons ago at this very track, that race, if my memory serves me correctly, which it probably isn't, was affected by rain as well, and Julian Ditchburn, who at that point in time was a Spec 2 driver, was just absolutely dominant in that race. So Julian Ditchburn got to look to try and back up that performance that he had a couple of seasons ago. Still on the provisional polls as it stands at the moment. James Berry slotted in second as it stands currently, and I think as we still have about 7 minutes left in this 20-minute long qualifying session, I think we'll take a look at the championship point standings, because coming to the end of the season, I have to think about how these championships are going to shake out. Here's how it stands at the moment in Spec 1. James Berry on the front as it stands currently, 691 points, my apologies, scored at this point in time. I have to go a little bit farther back to Kevin Adrian and Michael McConnell, who are slotted in second and third. Jason Green and Julian Ditchburn rounding at your top 5 as it stands at the moment. Now, Jason Berry, God damn it, James Berry, there we go, not Jason Berry. Jason Berry's his cousin. James Berry was not here for the last round of this season at Suzuka. I feel really bad because I've been commentating races for him for like the past year and a half now. But he was not here for the last Formula Ford Weekend Warriors race running in the Radical World Finals. And I feel like I need to apologize to James, both for the fact I called him Jason and the fact I may have pulled off a commentator jinx, because I said that he was one of my favorites heading into that race that I was commentating with a different broadcaster that we do not speak about on record. But I also kind of jinxed him because I said that he was going to win and he didn't end up doing it. But as it stands at the moment, still in the championship lead in the Spec 1 category. We'll move on to Spec 2, where we have SMB's very own Joshua Wilkie at the front. Now, I was having a chat with him after we wrapped up the Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcast yesterday, which you can catch every single Saturday here on SMB. He's pretty confident in his chances in terms of the point situation, as long as he doesn't get struck by a falling anvil, not even struck by a falling anvil, struck by a falling ICBM. He'll be in a really good shot to win that Spec 2 championship here for this season. Well farther back is Bill Walker, Paul Jackson, Andrew Love, and Daniel Verone rounding out your top 5 in the Spec 2 category. And we'll briefly move on to Masters, because I feel like I've been yapping about these point standings for quite a while, and Adam has been able to get a word in edgewise. Yurik Mani at the front, that's a pretty significant gap in the Masters category between himself and Brad Cathcart, Jim Brewster, Gary Wobold, and Stevie Ray himself rounding out your top 5. But looking pretty set in stone when it comes to those championship point standings. But again, we have got an oddball of a track. We've got rain heavily affecting this race, with the weather forecast not looking any better for the race itself. So Adam, I feel like despite the fact that those championships are looking kind of set in stone, I feel like around this track it's going to be tough.
Yeah, it probably is. And speaking of tough, we're going to hop on board here, it looks like, with Alan DeGasis, Ron, and I hope you've got the cams for this, because I do not. So take us around if you can.
It's all right, man. Here's Alan DeGasis coming out of turn number 2. That first section, very similar to what's like at Alsher Slabin, so kind of similar, kind of different. Looks like that section if it approached the event horizon of a black hole, but now we're heading down the back straightaway, downhill into 3 and 4. This section is going to be so tricky in the rain. It's a one-line corner more than anything else, but you can see that black stuff, the racing line, the rubber built up around this racetrack. In wet conditions, you don't want to touch that, otherwise you're going to feel like you're driving off slip and slide. Now through the S's here, this turn 5 into turn number 6, gonna hit turn 7 right now, and then we have a seemingly never-ending left-hand downhill hairpin through turn number 7 and 8 right now. I guess this would work out to be like a 300-degree corner. It is a ridiculously long bend that we have the fast, really nothing corner, the meandering right flick of turn number 9 into a really good overtaking opportunity. This is turn number 10, the hairpin, downhill, heading through the braking zone. Really tricky to try and get that braking zone right in dry conditions. Really easy to snag a wheel. There's a good overtaking opportunity as well into turn number 12. You can see DeGassis sliding in these wet conditions. Sliding 8th as it stands at the moment. This is looking like an alright lap from him through turn number 13 right now into the final corner of turn number 14, which makes turn 7 and 8 look like a left-hand flick in comparison. It is a long corner. It feels like it stretches on for a million years, but going on to that start-finish straightaway now, that is a lap for Alan DeGassis, the Masters driver in the 904 car, coming across the line now, and he sets a 1-minute 40.188, which is not an improvement, still finding himself in 8th.
Yeah, but this is, again, like we saw, I mean, the way that this rain is right now, you can't take the lines that you would normally want to take around here. Obviously, that clear line you see there, there is a bit of a line in the track. That's not what you want to be on. That's where all the rubber is. Rubber gets slick when you put rain on top of it. So you can see a bunch of different lines trying to get taken around here. And I don't know if anybody's looked at the race session yet to see how the race session is going to pan out. But if people try to go 2-3 wide into some of these corners with this rain, Ron, or on this rubber, it's not going to end well.
Yeah, it's going to be that's going to be the most treacherous spot. I gotta say, turn 1 on lap 1, I do not envy the position that these drivers are going to find themselves in at the very beginning of this race. I gotta say, in terms of the weather conditions themselves outside of the rain, not looking ideal. 63 degrees Fahrenheit for the track temperature, 65 ambient. Very rare that you see that big of a discrepancy between the track temperature and the ambient temperature, so it is cold out there, and I'm not even sure what number that is in terms of, I guess it would be kilopascals in terms of atmospheric pressure. That I'm pretty sure is like 15 times the atmospheric pressure of Jupiter. So these drivers under a lot of pressure, literally and figuratively, when it comes to the fact that we're bringing in the dying stages of this season, bringing in the dying stages of this qualifying session as well, with a minute and a half left on clock. Still looking good for Ditchburn, but I gotta say that captain himself and Barry has gone down a little bit, so I think James Barry is looking to try and find any sort of way to grab the pole, as much as he has a big cushion in that Spec 1 championship fight. Still doesn't want to end this season with a little bit of a sour note.
Ron, something I want to mention here. We're looking right now, and there is a guy right now that just crossed the line, actually, by the name of Ian Joyner, and he is not starting in first place. I don't know how this is going to go for Ian. Ian has been extremely quick, as we know, over the past few weeks. But one right behind him, Joshua Wilkie, really is turned up the wick in qualifying the past few weeks. He's always been quick in the race, but sitting right now in 5th place in S2.
Yeah, looking pretty good as it stands at the moment in the last few stages of the session. Wilkie going off the track.
You're welcome, Josh.
Moment hang down into 3 and 4. Nothing major for Josh for the time being. Doesn't want to have moments like that happen in the race. I dare bring back the memory of what happened at Cadwell Park earlier on in the season. I think we were following him right as he got yoinked from the session with a DQ. So the incident point violations may come back to bite some of these drivers on the hind end for this race here at Rudskogen today. Less than 10 seconds left to go in this qualifying session, so these drivers bringing this session to a close. Joyner, though, that got to himself and Kane Lasky for those 2 positions on that second row. That is minuscule between those 2 drivers, so we may see a hop, skip, and a jump for Ian Joyner. I nearly said a hopperoo, but I'm not sure if that is a word in the English language, so I will leave it at that. As we see, that's Kane Lasky running from him, so we're going to see Lasky and Joyner. Actually, I was going to say they're going to cross the line right about at the same time, but Lasky comes down pit lane. That's going to be the end of his qualifying session. Same can be said about Barry. Ditchburn's not out there on the racetrack at this point in time. Here's Joyner going to the pole at a 138.178. Joyner setting that killer time at the end of this session to grab the pole.
Yep, there it is. And Ron, English language and you know how to invent words pretty well. So I think, you know what, if you want to say hopperoo, that's fine. Speaking of hopperoo, we've got Tam here in the chat. And Ron, I think she's starting to become on par with you. Rud skating rink. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Yeah, that is a very good one. We're breaking out the new words here for this broadcast. The amount of times that I accidentally say like words that just do not exist that I invent is unbelievable. I think there's just ones that I use all the time. So I think, damn, we may have to use Rud Skating Rink at some point. And, you know, on the subject of Tam, I feel like I have shared this story occasionally. A couple of seasons ago in the Weekend Warriors world, she was actually in the commentary booth for the Spec Racer Ford season opener for not this season, but the season before. And it was very nice to have her in the commentary booth for that broadcast, the one-off there. I know that she very much so enjoyed her experience there. So, Tam, always nice to see you in the YouTube chat, and nice to see some drivers out here on the racetrack. This is George Gonzaga slot in 18th as it stands at the moment. Only 20 drivers out there on the racetrack setting qualifying times. I think that's just about all the people that we have in the session as well, looking through at the moment. Actually, no, we got 3 drivers who did not set some times. Russell Telker, Ken Poulin, and Edgar Sancinelli not setting qualifying times. So, a little bit lower participation. I think the other runoffs are going around at this same point in time, so that could be part of the reason why. That, and also the fact that this track isn't a popular one in the world of iRacing. Topple Rain on top of that, and that is about as appealing of a prospect. I feel like I need to invoke a little bit of Philadelphia terminology here. It's it's about as appealing as a Philadelphia cheesesteak topped with 5W30 motor oil.
That sounds doesn't sound bad. But real quick here, before we move on, I am no longer the owner of Slow Motion Broadcasting, but Zippy, I have listened to Tam's broadcast there on a rival broadcaster that will not be named, as Ron would always say. I'd love to get you back up here in the booth, Tam, if you wanted to. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But anyways, Tam is obviously here supporting Jim Brewster, and I don't know if Jim's even racing today. I haven't seen him yet, but we do have a starting grid for you. Ian Joyner starting in first with Julian Ditchborn right beside him. James Berry in third with Kane Lasky starting in fourth place on the second row. Joshua Wilkie in S2. Not coming home, but starting in fifth place with Jorg Monty in the Masters. Always a quick guy. Watch out for Jorg. In the rain, though, we've seen a couple mistakes from him starting in sixth. Michael McConnell in seventh with Alan DeGasis, eighth. Kevin Adrian, ninth. Bill Walker, 10th. Jason Green, 11th. And Daniel Tufts rounding out your top 12.
And looking through the rest of the starting grid, we got the Portuguese man, Antonio Reis, the Masters driver, who's always a Weekend Warrior staple, going to be starting this race in lucky number P13. Brad Cathcart, the Aussie, going to join him on that 7th row. Then we have Stevie Ray, series admin himself, starting this race in 15th. Daniel Verone starting in 16th. Then we have Jeff Jacobson, 17th. George Gonzaga starting this race from the 18th spot. Then we have Jason Grider in 19th. Jeff Wubker, I believe would be the correct pronunciation. He's going to be starting this race in 20th. Edgar Sancinelli going to be starting in 21st. Wub for the driver starting in 20th. Russell Tucker going to be starting this race in 22nd. And that, I believe, will round at your grid. I believe Ken Poulin may actually be the last starter, but I don't even believe he's in the session anymore. We got a full pace lap here, so
before the calm before the storm. See what I did there because it's raining. We do have an anonymous member that is sponsoring this Formula Ford race this afternoon. So thank you to whoever decided to sponsor this, and obviously the stream could not be done without you, and we always want to have some great Weekend Warriors racing on the weekends. I'm honest to God, I look forward to these streams every weekend. So thank you to whoever decided to sponsor this week's race.
Usually I'd say something like this is very facetious, but I think this race is going to be so exciting. I'm very happy that I grabbed a bag of popcorn out of Wawa before I got home earlier, so as I still talk with this popcorn in my mouth, this is great broadcaster's advice. Swallow before you speak. But very excited to get things up and rolling from this race. That is... this used to be a family show.
Anyways, moving on here. We're about halfway through the lap. I'll go ahead and let you keep chowing down on your popcorn there, Ron, and screw you and your Wawa, because I cannot... We don't have Wawas out here, and I've heard that is a hell of a place to go get some popcorn, kind of like Publix and their pub subs. So, anyways, back to the racing here. We got to quit talking about food because I'm hungry. But moving on, Ron, what are your predictions here? How do you think Turn 1's going to be handled? Are people going to try to get in line, or do you want to stay out of line to try to stay out of this spray, which is going to be tremendous going down into the first corner?
I think turn 1 is going to be the trouble spot to end all trouble spots. These drivers are going to be feeling the burn, literally and metaphorically, because it is going to be a real tough go of things heading through that corner. These tires going to be freezing cold, so talking about feeling the burn, the tires aren't going to be feeling the burn at all as it stands at the moment. Overcast conditions, raining still, 66 degrees Fahrenheit is the ambient temperature. The track is at 63, so these tires are going to be at best clammy and at the very worst cold. So this is going to be a real tough go of things for these drivers in this race. But we're going to get things up and rolling from the 11th race of this season. It's going to be Ian Joyner and Julian Ditchburn, two Reign Masters, going to be occupying that front row. Some drivers looking to try and seal the deal when it comes to their respective class championships, and they have one hell of a race to try and get it done. The green flag is out. The drivers are on their way. Kane Lasky already blinking in out of existence. The invisibility cloak working well in the rain, but side by side heading down into turn number 1. That's Julian Ditchburn and James Berry trying to get some moves done on each other. Ditchburn trying to remain in P2s. I think there may have been an off-track moment a little bit farther in the back. Stevie Ray getting connected there with Jeff Jacobson. So some aerial acrobatics very early on into this race. Russell Telker, I don't believe, actually took the start. So 21 cars taking to the green flag. Those two occupying the back as it stands at the moment. I think there may have been another moment involving Gonzaga side by side with Wilkie. And that's Julian Ditchburn going off the track, nearly giving those two the jump scare of a lifetime as Ditchburn tried to rejoin the racetrack. The driver of the 193 car started this race from the front row, got dicey early on with James Berry. However, he's been relegated to hell.
Looks like Walker has just crashed, and Jason Green may have been involved in that as well, unless he got through it, because Walker was right in front of Jason Green when that happened. And I did want to talk about Jason Green real quick. Mired back there in the middle of the field. He's making a habit of starting in the middle of the field now, and I know that's not where Jason wants to be. There is way too much on the line for him right now in this Spec 1 championship. He has got a good chance here to pull out a top 3 in the championship, so keep an eye on Jason Green. Wilkie still in 5th place. Jurg Monty there still in 8th place, leading the Masters. But there's Jason now in 11th. He's gained a couple positions, but still, I mean, this is not an easy track to overtake on, especially when you've got mounds and mounds of water sitting in the corners.
Oh, that is going to be a slip and slide for a lot of these racers. It's going to be really tough. Thankfully, unlike the water parks around me, the water isn't going to be smelling of stale hot dogs, but these drivers still going to have a whole lot of bad things on their hands. Oh boy, Jason Green running in 11th right now. We're following him. He's right in tow of this battle forming between DeGassis and Kevin Adrian. These two drivers running strong as it stands currently. DeGassis in a really good spot. He's he's right behind Jurg Monty. I think Monty's just a little bit farther up the road. You can just barely see him in the camera shot coming at turn number 2. But that is the fight in the Masters category, and that fight is very much on. However, Adrian got to try and stick his nose in that fight. The driver of the number 10 car heading his way down into turn number 3 and 4 on the inside of the gas.
That's not where you want to go.
Done. That is sketchy if ever I saw a move like that.
Remember what I said about the rubber. That is the preferred line when it's dry, but when you get on that rubberized line, things will get super sketchy. And speaking of sketchy, Jorge Gonzaga is back here in an absolute fight for his life. I think he got a little bit loose, but able to save it. And there goes Brad Cathcart around.
Cathcart going off the circuit in the 905 car, the Aussie. He's had a very scrappy race thus far. Started this race in, I believe, 14th. However, with that mistake, he's going to be relegated back to no man's land. A tough break, heading through one of the toughest sections of this lap. That section, Adam, it feels like if you go like slightly offline, you're just going to skid off into the runoff area, then hit the paint and just go spinning around like a top. So that section, it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, especially in these conditions.
Yeah, you said it. Ooh, as Kevin Adrian, you can see the puddles there, and Kevin might lose it. I was worried about that, and it does go around. And like you said, there is no good line. If you go off the line, then you got to be careful because there's puddles out there. If you're on the line, there's puddles there, and you're on the rubber. So damned if you do, damned if you don't is exactly how I would put it. James Berry and Daniel Tufts, though, are really locked in a battle here for 3rd place.
These two are some of the best drivers all throughout this season. Both British drivers running 3rd and 4th as it stands at the moment, battling for that final podium spot. The real question is who's going to prevail in that fight. Tufts maybe trying to sneak a wheel around the outside, hang into 3 and 4, but not close enough. Barry going deep, though. Barry going off the track.
Look out.
He's got to be really risky there. The paint, getting anywhere near the painted lines on the outside of the racetrack, especially in wet conditions like this, is tough. Oh, I think we may have had an off-track moment there for the both of them abusing those track limits. Goes back to the point we mentioned earlier involving the incident point limits, as I think there may have been an incident involving Jeff Jacobson and Edgar Sancinelli. They're both dropping down the running order currently in 20th and 21st as it stands at the moment. I think that may have been an incident hang down into 3 and 4, and it looks like Jacobson has had to tow back to pit lane, so I think there was some major drama that just happened there a couple of moments ago as Stevie's gone for a spin as well.
Well, quickly, before we move on here, let's talk about Edgar Sancinelli. I haven't seen him around lately. I'm glad to see Edgar back here running. I used to cover him in a league that's no longer covered on slow motion broadcasting, but it's great to see you out here, Edgar, and I'm glad to see you're still alive, my friend, but not doing too hot, not so much alive on the track, and he's getting swamped up. There's Jeff Jacobson, and that was the incident going into turn 5, I believe.
And you can see that car is wrecked. A tough break for both of those drivers heading through one of the fastest sections of the racetrack. One of the most inviting sections to try and get a move done, but sadly just a small little misjudgment has got to end in tears for the both of them. Meanwhile, getting back to live action, a side-by-side fight here involving Kevin Adrian and Daniel Verone. They're going to be side-by-side, hang down the start-finish straightaway off into turn number 1. Looks like Adrian going to prevail as Daniel Verone goes very early on the brakes. Going deep into the corner, though, is Adrian. He may sacrifice his exit coming out of turn number 2, so we may see these drivers go side by side yet again as Stevie's come down pit lane. That, I think, is to repair some sort of damage that he may have on that 911 race car. Tough break for him. You can see him trundling his way down the pit lane as it stands at the moment. As we go back to live action and see Jeff Wubker in the 309 car, running at this point in time in the 16th position. Not sure if he's going to appreciate the nickname I've given him, but you can see the varied lines of these racers heading downhill into 3 and 4. Usually hear about the different lines that drivers like to run in wet conditions. I think we saw that get put on full display there a couple of moments ago.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can tell Bill is trying to find a way around Jeff here, but the problem is where, Ron? I mean, this is the biggest issue that we're starting to see. There is no good spot to pass because it's all slick no matter where you go. I mean, you can see how much more of a run Jeff got on that slick line out of the rubber coming out of the corner. Bill just can't do anything to get beside him.
Ooh, and you can see deep into the hairpin at turn number 10. That's going to cost Jeff Wubker that 16th spot on Bill Walker. Finally getting by him, the 309 and the 319 have a swap-a-roo of positions. Brad Cathcart now looking to get involved in that fight as we go back to live action. Actually, my apologies, take a look at a replay. The complete opposite of live action. We see a moment involving Kevin Adrian in the 10 car.
Oh, he's
heading
sideways.
Downhill into 3 and 4 right now. Sideways, slideways, going for a spin off the track. He's not going to get hit again, hopefully trying to rejoin the racetrack as best as he can. You can see him very tentative, doesn't want to go anywhere near the racing line because considering these wet conditions, one driver goes an inch off the racing line in the wet conditions and they just spin and all go right into the side views. We go now back to live action. Second tries to charm with Jörg Monty and Michael McConnell now starting to battle for 7th.
Michael McConnell is a guy that always seems to find himself involved in battle, so it's going to be great to see how Michael does this with a very, very fast Masters class leader right now of Jörg Monty behind him. But very quickly, we got Finney McFinger in the chat. What's up, Randall? And Tam said, good reflexes for Gonzaga. We saw that a while back when that car spun in front of him. Don't know how the hell he was able to get away from that. But Monty, we know this about Monty. Monty does not fuel save, and Monty is full throttle, full time. And you can see how much that rear end is kicking out for Monty getting through these corners. He's pushing extremely hard.
Oh yeah, Jörg Monty is a brutally fast race car driver. I gotta say, usually you'd think, oh yeah, they're Masters drivers, they're a little bit up there in the years, they're not gonna fight with some Spec 1 drivers, they're not gonna fight for wins. Jörg Monty and a lot of the drivers in the Masters category, in both the Formula Fords and the Spec Racer Fords, they buck that trend. They may be old in age, but they got the driving skills of a 20-year-old guy. They are brutally fast in this series, and we see that with Jörg Monty week after week. He's been in contention for some overall victories thus far this season. So he is brutally quick in these race cars, running in 8th as it stands at the moment. Last time by saying a 1-minute 39.794. So Monty very quick. McConnell just trying to stay in tow. Slower last time by saying his personal best lap of the race though. But I feel like in terms of pace, Monty may have the advantage for the time being. Will they go side by side, hang down into turn number 3 and 4 in a couple of moments time? You can see Monty on that outside line. Usually you'd think even in these race cars that don't drift too hard, you want to be in the drift, you don't want to be in the spraying conditions like this. That's a fate.
Look out, though. McConnell got loose.
McConnell going deep.
McConnell got very loose there, and very quickly in the chat, we've got Jeff Jacobson, Mr. Little Blue Neon. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Too bad you're not on track anymore, but you said, oh no, you washed my wreck into Edgar. Yes, Jeff, we did. But like Zippy said, for the right price, we might be able to miss him. And I'm not, there's no extortion here. There's nothing. I'm just saying it's a charity. It's a charity. But anyways, back to the racing. McConnell has gained just a little bit of time, gapped Jurgmani just a little bit. And I think he needed that. You could see McConnell was getting kind of nervous with Monty right behind him, but it looks like he's able to just extend that lead just a little bit, maybe settle back in. We got Bill Walker here now going for a move on Jason Greider.
I gotta say, that is a very nice charitable cause that you just phrased there, Adam. I think I have some experience with charities in the past. I remember sending the lump sum of about $2,000 to a nice Nigerian prince running a charity there in Africa, and I never really saw that money again. But looking at these drivers, oh boy, side by side, maybe in the not-too-distant future between these two. Greider running a little bit deep hang down into turn number 12 a couple of moments ago. Not as deep as Daniel Verone, who we nearly saw go
there
into
he
the
goes.
gravel
They're
trap,
both
but
going around.
Synchronized spinning between those two heading into turn number 14. It was so dramatic. My lisp that I had as a kid came back to bite me in the butt. But looking at that, that was some beautiful drifting with both of them. It seems like they didn't lose too much time when everything was said and done too.
Insert the Benny Hill theme music now, please. But anyways, we've got Michael McConnell here still trying to stay in front of Jurgmani. He's on the paint this time. He's driving it deeper and deeper and deeper into turn 2. This is not going to go well for him if he keeps... Come on now, Zippy. This is not going to go well for him if he keeps doing this, because eventually he's going to get on that painted surface and he is going to loop it, and you have to be careful of these curbs as well. Jason Green, though, we haven't talked about him. He's now up into 10th place. A bit of attrition here for sure, but he's now on the back of Alan DeGasis. But again, you can see there's just no good way to get side by side. You have to wait for the person in front of you to make a mistake if you are on any type of similar pace.
Yeah, that's a big thing in conditions like this. You don't want to risk it too much. Don't risk it for the biscuit or risk it for the Triscuit if you're feeling the low-calorie option, which seems to be a saying that I say on these broadcasts nowadays. But these drivers, I think at this point in time, I think there may have been a couple of moments ago. Look at this pandemonium here. Tuff's losing out on a lot of time. He's now fallen into the crutches of Kane Lasky, Julian Ditchburn, and Barry. Look at that massive pack battling for the final 2 spots and all the positions left in the top 5 outside of Joyner, who's just entirely checked out in this race. Looking at that absolute hornet's nest. Ditchburn trying to get moved done on Lasky side by side, hang off into turn number 1. Looking at that, well done from Ditchburn to slip his way up into 3rd.
That is a great move, and looks like Kane is starting to struggle quite a bit. I don't know if he has damage or if he's just now on that slick line where you don't want to be. He's just gotten swallowed up by 4 drivers now, back into 5th place all of a sudden. Really quickly, though, I want to do this, Daniel, and I want to do this one time. We're going to go up to Ian Joyner, and we're only going to cover him this time because there is no reason to cover him the rest of the way. Ian Joyner already 6 and almost a half seconds ahead. This guy, rain, snow, shine, it doesn't matter. He is just that fast as McConnell finally goes around.
Something was going to break with McConnell, and I think in the same section that has nearly caught him out the past like 5 laps in a row, finally came back to bid him in the number 62 car. Let's take a look at the replay to see what happened to him. Deep into the corner, hits the paint, and just spins around like a top. That's
great
wet weather racing if ever I saw one.
I mean, you got to wonder here if you're Jurgmani. If we can go back to that one more time, please, Daniel, and I want to get an onboard from Jurgmani there. When you see him sideways, you can't really hit the brakes that well. So, especially in the rain. So, how Jurgmani was able to avoid this is beyond me. Watching him now going into turn 5.
Ooh, he kind of got sideways as well, heading through the corner, and you can see just trying to take evasive action there. Well done from Monty. You got to be smooth when you go for something like that, trying to take evasive action with the car spinning right in front of you. I'm not sure if you saw that as well, Adam. I felt it in my ass seeing that from Monty's perspective. He could tell that he was sideways and not really well held heading through that section. You could tell he was dicing a little bit into that section right as McConnell spun in front of him.
There's not much you can do in that situation either if you're Jurgmani. Now, we do have a question from Tam saying, did Lasky slow down? I don't quite know, Tam. Lasky looks like he's just lost the pace all of a sudden, and I'm wondering if incident points are already starting to come into play here, Ron. Oh, we lost Ron there for a minute, so yeah, I'll talk for a minute. I I think incident points are starting to come into play. Off tracks, again, very stringent on off tracks here on the Weekend Warriors, or incident points in general. I think 13, you get your first drive through. 17, you are out of there. So you got to be super careful with incident points. And I wonder if Kane Lasky just had to slow it down quite a bit to not get any more incident points. And you wonder if these drivers that are battling like this, we've got Ditchburn on the outside, or the inside, excuse me, of Tufts, can't quite make the move. But when you get some battles going like this, you can have off tracks very, very easily. Ronald
yeah,
Maunz,
that's the thing when it comes to conditions like this. Yeah, I was there the whole time, but me being in my infinite wisdom, right as you passed it off to me was when I was taking a sip of my drink, so I couldn't really, I was otherwise engaged at that point in time, but at this point in time, these drivers feeling those incident points begin to creep up into the discussion. I think some of these drivers who we're seeing on track at the moment, lots of them were running in the Cadwell Park Ground earlier on this season.
Oh, don't bring that one up, Ron.
Absolute. Yeah, it was Zippy a little bit biased. Best track ever. It's a cool track. Don't mind me, but the weather conditions kind of made that just an absolute afternoon of torment for a lot of these racers. As we nearly see a bump and run from Kevin Adrian on George Gonzaga heading off through turn number 14. They're going to be side by side heading down the start-finish straightaway off through the braking zone into turn number 1. Adrian on the inside. Adrian going to get that move done to slip his way back up into the top 10. For the time being, though, he's a little bit deep, taking a very shallow line into turn number 12. Looking Gonzaga in that 183 car, gonna try and wheel at that insert name E-Racing Team car side by side now yet again with Adrian heading down this back straightaway, downhill again into turn number 3 and 4. I don't have a good feeling about this, Adam. I'll be completely honest, but these drivers are very, very fast and they're very good racers as well, and they somehow got away with that side-by-side fight heading into that section. Holy
You know, I love sitting here on the broadcast and watching these drivers do this, because you don't really see much of this while you're sitting on the racetrack. Is there goes, oh my goodness, Jorge Gonzaga gets caught out exactly where he dodged an incident a little earlier on, and I'm getting a stutter because I'm trying to do or talk and do 3 things at once here. But you can see Jorge Gonzaga just gets it wrong here. Does he catch anything? Gas it up? What happens? Looks like he catches the curve there on the left.
Replay.
Oh my goodness, way
hits
too much painted surface. Yep, that is going to be an issue, and I'm surprised a lot of these drivers have gotten away with it as much as they have. I thought the painted surfaces were going to be a bit more detrimental, but all of a sudden, you can do the same thing every lap and then just get caught out. Julian Ditchburn here and James Berry are still absolutely in a freaking fight. Excuse me, that's Daniel Tufts and Julian Ditchburn in a massive battle. This has been going on now for 5 or 6 laps, and it looks like Ditchburn's going to try to make the move on Tufts. Tufts is sideways.
Look at that from Tufts. Holy cow, Tufts with the save of a lifetime heading down the hill into turn number 3 and 4. I was screeching like an irate cat. We see Ditchburn. Was that Ditchburn going off the track right behind that? May have actually been Kane Lasky. Was that actually Barry, though? Taking a look at a replay to see who may have gone off the circuit heading into 3 and 4. Barry in the 100. He's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. Driving through the spray, going off the track there and going for a spin. That's going to take him out of contention. Look at that from Kane Lasky. That was a matter of inches between him. Thankfully, not going to need to change some body parts on the race car, or the drivers for that matter. However, will need a change of pants.
I think these drivers have totally given up. By the way, great pun there, Ron. I think these drivers have totally given up on catching Ian Joyner. Right now, they are locked in a battle with each other, and I guarantee you they are having a lot of fun. I would assume they are, maybe not, but I don't think there's any catching Ian Joyner. The battle is now on for second place. And keep in mind, Ron, we're only 18 minutes into this. These drivers have not stopped yet.
Yeah, they have not stopped. I don't think they are going to stop at all. Speaking of stopping, though, Kane Lasky coming in for a pit stop. See what I did there? He's coming in from the 4th position right now. Let's see how things shake out for him. One of the first drivers still running strong in this race, not involved in a major incident to come down pit lane. So let's see how things work out for Kane Lasky and whether or not that's going to start a trend of drivers like himself, Barry, Tufts, or Ditchburn deciding to make that run to come into the pits. Joyner, meanwhile, he's just completely checked out. There's Lasky stopped in his box right now. The 09 car currently running in 9th for the time being. Right, as I said, that Adrian passes him to drop Lasky down to 10th. But let's see how long he stays stopped in his pit stall. Take a look at the field still out there on the racetrack. Julian Ditchburn now running in second. Pretty good recovery drive from him, as you can see Tufts running in the paint on all of those curbs, heading through 5 and 6. Tufts running a very dangerous game.
I'm wondering if Kane Lasky took tires, because he is in that pit stall for absolutely way too long. 57, 58, 59, almost 1 minute in the pit lane. I don't know what went on there with Kane Lasky, but I don't think that was a scheduled stop. Now, I'm wondering, because it's so slick here on that pit entry, I wonder if he sped into the pits, Ron.
Ooh, that would be a heartbreaker for Kane Lasky. Gotta maybe find a replay to see if he spun into the pits. Gotta say one thing with these Formula Ford race cars, they don't have a pit lane speed limiter button, so these drivers having to do it the old-fashioned way. And let's take a look to see. Looks like he's very conservative on pit entry there, so I think that may have just been him taking tires.
Yep, that's an interesting pit strategy there for Kane Lasky, especially with the rain on the track, and it looks like he's going slow. Did he just have another spin, maybe? Kane Lasky is having some serious issues out there right now.
Yeah, not sure what in the world has gone on with Kane Lasky. Hearing that, yeah, you can see the connection issues that he's having. Has he just come down pit lane yet again? Trying to see, yes, he has come down pit lane yet again. Spent 6 seconds in his box, 42 seconds down pit lane. So I think there may, actually, my apologies, I was following the numbers with green there, my bad. I think, though, has he come down pit lane yet again? I'm not sure if he has. May have just had a spin. Looking at some blinking there. Who is that on the outside of Daniel Tufts? I believe that has a lap car, possibly Daniel Verone. Could see him blinking out of style, heading through 3 and 4 a couple of moments ago. But not sure what in the world has gone down with Kane Lasky. Tough for him. He's been a really intriguing driver to follow all throughout this season. Whether it be a finish like the Hungara Ring, and Adam, I remember you were in the commentary booth for that race, and Kane Lasky having a very controversial finish, to say the very least, or whether it be some other fantastic performances that he's had all throughout the season, one of the most interesting drivers to follow in the Formula Ford Weekend Warrior Series.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wasn't listening to anything you said, Ron. I'm sitting here looking at the chat, and Tam comes in with another zinger, says, wishful thinking, going for rain tires. So, Tam, you are something else. That one made me giggle quite a bit. Looks like Finney McFinger said, sounds like a penalty. I think you're probably on to something there, Randall, and we'll see exactly what happens. Or he could have forgotten to uncheck tires. Who knows what's going on with Kane Lasky, but right now, he is still out on the track, I believe, sitting there in 14th, 1 lap down, though. So that's really going to hurt Kane. We know how quick this guy can be, so it's unfortunate. But I do want to get back up to this battle right now between Ditchburn and Tufts, and I think that may have been what you were talking about, Ron, but it looks like these guys have just been swapping positions. You can see Tufts, he makes some seriously optimistic moves on Ditchburn, but it causes him to have some seriously slow exit speed, and that's where Ditchburn keeps getting that freaking position back, and you know at this point Tufts is just aggravated.
Yeah, at this point in time, these drivers are going to see that red mist come up. They've been dealing with regular mist all throughout this race, but the red mist is going to play a big factor, especially considering the fact that we are over the halfway mark of this race. Looking at Tufts, though, whenever we take a look at him, I am honestly shocked that he's running on these painted curbs as much as he is. I mean, they are actual curbs, but they got some paint on them as well. So Tufts running some very odd lines heading through a section like that, as Lasky has come down pit lane yet again. So I think there may have been another moment as we take a look at a replay.
Oh, no,
see a moment involving Jason
JG1.
Ryder in the 552 car, heading down into 3 and 4. Is it a simple spin?
Little bit of, yep, right there. Just caught a little bit of that painted line, and you've got to look out!
Oh, no.
That's a 272. Who is that? Daniel Verone gets caught up in that. Doesn't look like there's much damage, though, but don't drive, because there goes Wilkie around, and this is a driver we haven't talked about. If we can go back live here, I want to see exactly where Wilkie is. He's been quiet, but he is still in the S2 lead. He is still sitting in 5th place.
I think he spun at the end of that replay. I just saw that in the corner of my eyes as we switched back to live action. You can see Wilkie taking the evasive line. I did that back in the day in Assetto Corsa lobbies back when I was a really assholey teenager. Looking, though, Wilkie heading down into turn number 7. Simple spin and going over the crest. And oh, no, he got hit by Monty.
Well, Oh, I hate to say this, but I don't think Wilkie decided to get off of those brakes, and I think Yerk thought he was going to stay on him, and that caused some massive carnage here. Now, Wilkie is still doing okay. Bill Walker, he has been fast. Bill Walker's going to pass him here, but we'll see exactly how quick Wilkie can be. He hasn't taken his pit stop yet, so this is an okay time. He does get a quick repair as well. So we'll see. There goes Walker down the front straight. Wilkie's going to get past here, but I don't know if Walker is pit yet. I can go ahead and pull mine up real quick and see if he has, but this is going to be an all-out battle here to the S win.
Yeah, this is going to be a battle tooth and nail between Wilkie, a driver who's been oh so dominant all throughout this season, and Walker, who at this point in time is just looking to try and play spoiler. Really in that Spec 2 category, it's Wilkie versus the world, as we see the other driver involved in that incident, Jorg Monty, come down pit lane, running 13th as it stands at the moment, yet to make a stop, so this is going to be his one and only stop in this race, with about 15 and a half minutes on the clock. So there's Monty. We've seen in the past Monty just getting struck by falling anvil after falling anvil. That's a tough moment for both those racers. Heading into turn number 7 a couple of moments ago. Looking now at Wilkie back out there on the racetrack, running in 12th as it stands at the moment. Walker's yet to come into the pits, though, so I feel like it may end up coming the way of Wilkie unless some sort of major drama happens. There's Walker heading down to turn number 10.
If I'm Bill Walker right now, you're pitting this lap. You passed Wilkie while Wilkie was still driving into his pit box. Right now, you have got to make this pit stop. No, Walker does stay out. So this is going to be an interesting strategy from Bill Walker. See exactly what he wants to do. We are way past, almost way past. Yeah, we're way past halfway. We're 5 minutes past. So we'll see exactly what happens with Bill Walker. Wilkie now is only about 10 seconds behind Walker. So I honestly, you're right. I don't think this is going to be a battle like I thought, even though Wilkie was sitting there in the pits with a damaged car. He got that quick repair with Walker driving by him while Wilkie was driving into his pit box. But 10 seconds ain't going to do it.
Yeah, I think at this point in time, Walker running in 10th. He's still yet to come down pit lane. We saw him stay out yet another lap as Monty's still in his pit stop. So I think Monty may have had another off-track moment. He's all the way down in 19th at this point in time, hopelessly out of contention. Yeah, he's only spent about 13 seconds down pit lane and in his pit stall, so I think there may have been an incident involving Jorg Monty. Got hopefully to load up that replay in a couple of moments' time to try and figure out what exactly has gone on there, as we see some side-by-side fighting maybe developing here between Alan DeGassis, who at this point is a leader in the Masters category, and Adrian running 6th of the Spec 1 drivers, 7th overall. Side-by-side nearly heading down into the hairpin of turn number 10. Not close enough to get a move done yet. Actually, right as I say that, on corner exit, Adrian getting a run. He's going to be on the outside, stuck on the outside.
That's a dangerous spot to be.
He backs out of it.
Yeah, you can see him get a little bit loose. He got way too close to that exit curbing for comfort, but able to hold on to it. Now is back to business as usual. Adrian trying to track down DeGasis. And while we're talking about that, DeGasis with Jorg Monty having that incident with Joshua Wilkie has now taken the Masters lead. And now he has about 15 minutes to hold on to it.
Yeah, I think he's going to try tooth and nail to hold on to that spot, but not holding on to that spot overall at the moment, as Kevin Adrian trying to wheel it around the outside through turn number 2. That's a dangerous spot if you're Kevin Adrian. Got to worry about the paint on the outside, the paint on pit exit. Look at that slide, though, from Adrian as he gets that move done. Well done from Kevin Adrian. Wheeling that number 10 car. It's still not over yet, though. DeGassis may try and fight back in the 904. They're not close enough to go for a side-by-side fight just yet, but I don't have a good feeling about Adrian heading into that corner. That's an odd line to be sure, taking a shallow entry into turn number 3. Oh boy, I was fully expecting him to just drift off, take that shallow line, drift off into the paint, and just spin around like a top. And as I try and hack up a bit of water that just went down the wrong pipe, I'll let you handle this replay, Adam.
Well, I mean, I do want to say something about Kevin. Kevin must have a custom seat installed to haul around those cojones that he's got going into turn 1, definitely, but Julian Ditchburn around. This is a replay, and that is not good for Ditchburn. You can see Lasky there passing him, but you know what? The one thing I can say about Kevin Adrian, he is taking some very interpretive racing lines, but he's making them work. So there's not much you can say. Ditchburn now in the pits. He is going to come in. This is going to be a scheduled stop. He spun it, decided to take the pit here. Antonio Reese there, back there in 10th place at the moment, trying to track down DeGasis, but he's got a long way to go to get to him.
And I think Cathcart just lost out on a little bit of time, now running in 14th as it stands at the moment. Not sure if that was a side-by-side fight with himself and Lasky that went the way of Lasky, or if he just had an off-track excursion. Actually, as I get the hiccups here, perfect time to do that. Ditchburn now exiting pit lane. Reese mega sideways coming through turn number 14. That's going to be a trip up as we see Ditchburn now exit pit lane as Reese enters it. So there's Antonio Reese in the 914 car. Not really in contention for a Masters win at the moment. However, if the gases were to run into some sort of major difficulties, either a competitor or a barrier, that would be Antonio Reese's spot to gain. So we may end up seeing Antonio Reese be a factor at the end of this race if some drama were to strike.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be one of these things. It always seems to come down to the end. Everybody does very well for the first 35 minutes, and I don't know, including me, I don't know what gets into me for those last 5. You start pushing a little harder. Maybe you get a little bit complacent because you've been running for 35 minutes, but all of a sudden mistakes start to get made. So really, I would say that anything is up to grabs, but I'm going to maybe commentator's curse Ian Joyner here when I say that this guy has been rock solid. Ain't nothing. No falling anvils, Ron. That's 4, by the way. No falling anvils are going to be able to stop Ian Joyner from winning this race up here in first place, around 10 seconds ahead.
And in terms of the pace he's setting as well, he seems to be incredibly comfortable, albeit last time set a 1 minute 38.7, which is about 1.6 seconds slower than his best lap of the race, which I should note is the fastest lap of the race as it stands at the moment. That number 8 car has been on rails all throughout this race, so Ian Joyner feeling really good about his chances. Gotta say, for a driver like Joyner, I think we may have to talk about him when it comes to the championship for season 1 of 2025. I mean, in the right Esports Weekend Warriors world, usually follow the in real life weather forecast, so cold and rainy conditions seem to be Ian Joyner's bread and butter. I mean, he's from the UK, so it does kind of make sense. So we may end up having to talk about him, not in terms of this season's championship, but next season's championship as well.
Now, I do have one question for you here. There was a battle for second and third with Daniel Tufts. As it looks like DeGasis gets sideways. That is not going to help him at all. Antonio Reese might be able to still smell it just a little bit. Maybe smell that Masters win, but he's got a long way to go. DeGasis does get that save done. But yeah, Daniel Tufts has absolutely just pulled away from Barry.
Yeah, he is entirely checked out in that number 34 car. There's James Barry running in third at the moment in the 100 car. He's now coming out of that final corner onto the start-finish straightaway. So Barry having a really bad turn of pace as it stands at the moment. I think there may have been some sort of mistake because in terms of last laps, they were pretty evenly matched in terms of lap time. So I think there may have been some sort of moment involving Barry for him to drop down the running, well, not drop down the running order, but drop off the back of Tufts so badly, because that's a big cushion, as you just said, Adam. 8.2 seconds. That's not something that's gained in the span of a stint. That is something big, as we see Verone going deep into turn number 10.
One thing, if we go back on board here, please, Zippy, with Jeff Lubker, I want you guys to understand, we're going to listen for a minute, just understand how difficult it is right now to drive this track. I mean, you can hear him getting through these corners, not full throttle at all, and you can see he was totally off throttle, and the car was still trying to go around, Ron. This is not an easy track to drive right now, so massive props to everybody who is still out on the racetrack and still trying to get this race done.
And as we're riding on board with him, heading through that final corner, you can hear the screeching of the tires heading through that section. These cars are dancing around trying to find grip where there just isn't any. I mean, the weather, it's bad enough as is. That track is soaked at the moment. But in terms of, like, actual temperature as well, the track is not heated up. The ambient temperature of 66 and track temperature of 63, it's been pretty much that entire way ever since the drop of the green flag. So it's been bad all throughout, as who was that just going straight off the track heading down into 3 and 4. That was a big off-track moment. Not entirely sure who that may have been. Looking back, that may have been, I don't believe that was Walker. May have been, actually, I have genuinely no idea who that was. It was someone going off the track heading down into 3 and 4 though.
We do have a battle here.
Side by side with Walker and Green.
lap car here. That's Daniel Verone actually getting lapped here by Green. And the thing with Wilkie is trying to stay stuck to the back here of Jason Green because Walker is still right now the S2 leader. Now, with that being said, Walker, I have now pulled up my live timing finally, and you're right. Walker has not pitted yet. So really right now, Wilkie is just in go home mode. Limp home mode. All he's got to do is limp at home. He's got absolutely nobody. Daniel Verone is the next S2 driver, and he is a lap down. So right now, Wilkie is doing absolutely everything he needs to do to win this race for S2. And to top all that, still sitting, maybe battling Jason Green here very quickly for a top 10.
Yeah, I think we may see them break their way into the top 10 as Michael McConnell's exiting pit lane right now, so that may stick another wrench in the works for that battle between Green and Wilkie. This is going to be tense towards the end of this race. We still haven't seen some very heavy hitters come down pit lane looking through. Ian Joyner's yet to come into the pits. Daniel Tufts hasn't come into the pits yet. Same can be said about the likes of Barry, Kevin Adrian, Alan DeGassis, George Gonzaga, and Bill Walker. So a lot of these racers have yet to come down pit lane. Right as I say that, though, Daniel Tufts from second coming down pit lane with 34 minutes and about 40 seconds on the clock of this 40-minute long race. Tufts finally coming in.
Yep, and Tufts is going to have to get a very, very good pit stop here because if he doesn't, he's going to be back here in this battle with Green and McConnell and Wilkie. I mean, it's turning into a hornet's nest back here. All of a sudden, it's crazy. We've had 30-ish minutes of some good battles, but now it's turning into a pretty good battle. But when I say that, McConnell has come out and he's already gapped Jason Green and Joshua Wilkie. McConnell knows what he's doing in this wet weather.
Now, McConnell's been pretty fast in the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors Series in the rain before, as we see Kevin Adrian in the number 10 car finally make that call to come into the pits. So that's him and his one stop done for the time being. It's just in his pit crew's hands now as we're riding on board with Josh Wilkie heading through in the 223 car, riding on board with him now. You can see him sawing at the wheel, trying to find any sort of grip, heading through that corner, tailing Green as it stands at the moment. These two were buddy doing an interview at the end of the Formula V Weekend Warriors broadcast just one day ago. Now they're on the racetrack battling tooth and nail for some positions inside the top 10. Going to overtake Kevin Adrian, has had a really slow run down into the pits. He may get involved in this fight. The same may be said about George Gonzaga, possibly going side by side with Lasky in the not too distant future. There's George in the 183 car. Let's see how things shake out in terms of him exiting. Ian Joyner from the lead of the race now coming down pit lane. He had to do it at some point. The driver, the number 8, has been dominant all throughout this race. However, doesn't want to pick up any sort of penalty, because if he does, that would be game, set, match for him and a heartbreaker to end this race. Riding on board now back again with this fight with Green and Wilkie. Riding on board with Wilkie, he is sawing at the wheel as best as he can. Walker still yet to come down pit lane as Barry stays out, unlike Joyner's now come into the pits.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting. I'm sorry, Ron, if you pass it off to me. My dog Badger decided to turn our pillow into another rabbit, so there was confetti all around the back of my chair that I had to get cleaned up. But we are back to racing right now. And again, talking about Wilkie sawing at the wheel with Jason Green in front of him. What do you do if you're in Wilkie's position right now, Ron? Do you go for this overtake? Jason Green is not a slow driver. He is going for overall points as well. Wilkie doesn't need the overall points. He's already absolutely dominating in S2. Walker still waiting for him to go in the pits as DeGasis enters the pit lane.
I mean, pit stops are required from this series. If a driver doesn't come down pit lane, they're going to be hit with a pretty substantial hammer. So at this point in time, if you are Josh Wilkie, there's really no point in risking it at this point in time. Even if he finishes second behind Bill Walker, it's not going to hurt him too much in terms of that championship. He doesn't need to go out and grab every single checkered flag that he can in the class. At this point in time, he just needs to finish these races, not get struck by a falling anvil. That's the thing with Wilkie.
That's fine.
So I think with that in mind, I don't really think that he should go for a move on Green. Because at this point in time, going for a move like that, let's say he gets a move done successfully. Big deal, it's another position gained. If he tries to go for that move and it ends in disaster, he's going to have to settle for an 18th place finish rather than an 8th place finish, which in a race like this, that could really matter, but he is starting to feel the burn from Kevin Adrian right behind the number 10 car. So I think Green kind of holding up this pack a little bit. Barry is coming to the pits from the lead of the race, but I gotta say, Adam, I'm not sure, maybe my perspective is just a little bit different, but I feel like if you're Wilkie, You don't want to get caught up in this red mist, because if you get caught up too badly, you could just completely end your chances of doing well.
Adrian's going for a move here. Oh my goodness, there was almost contact there with Wilkie's right rear, or left rear, excuse me. Now they're going to be battling. Wilkie's not going to give this up. I'm impressed here. Wilkie putting his elbows out sideways on the final corner, trying to hold on to that position. Now, here's another thing. Wilkie has now let Kevin Adrian go. Great, whatever, fine. Now, let Kevin Adrian go and try to overtake Jason Green, and then Wilkie can follow him through and still get back up into 7th position, or 8th position, excuse me. So this is a big deal
Walker's
right now. And again, Walker has gone off. Walker hasn't gone off. He's finally in the pit lane with 1 minute to go. Walker knew he had to get this pit done.
I was curious. I saw him losing out on some time, so I wasn't sure exactly what was going on. It's given the Spec 2 lead back to Josh Wilkie. As we take a look at the replay to see what may have happened involving Julian Ditchburn. I think we may have a fight on our hands here, trying to look to see what's going on. Here we go. Green and Adrian covered by barely any air. Wilkie dropping back. He wants no parts of this absolute madness. Heading down the back straightaway off into 3 and 4. Curious if Kevin Adrian is going to risk it and try and get that move
He thought
done.
about
Look
it.
at him, so close. That was near disaster between the two of them. Hang down into 3 and 4.
Oh my
Kevin
goodness, what a
Adrian
line by
feeling
Adrian.
racy. He's been experimenting with move after move, line after line. Meanwhile, Green, he's one of the most conceited drivers in this series. He's a conservative driver. You don't really see him go for these all-out fantastic moves. He's a fantastic defensive racer. So this is a battle of titans here, really. If you ever ask the question, what happens when unstoppable force meets an immovable object? We've got these two. Adrian sideways, slideways, coming at turn number 8. Kevin Adrian still following Green, hang down into turn number 10 for one of the last times in this race. The checkered flag out going to be coming around last time by for Ian Joyner. But at this point in time, this is going to be the fight that we have to keep our eyes on between Kevin Adrian and Jason Green. Heading down into turn number 12 for one of the last times in this race. I'm not sure if they'll be taking the white flag this time by or if they will be taking the checkered, but either way, it's going to be an intense fight between these two racers coming to the end of this race. Kevin Adrian still running right behind Jason Green, going on to that start-finish straightaway. Looking at this side-by-side, hang down the start-finish straightaway. Don't think they're battling to the checkered flag, but they are battling for the white flag lap. It's going to be Adrian in front of him, heading into turn number 1 for one of the last times in this race. Adrian around the outside, getting the move done on Jason Green. But Green's got to be fighting back in that 160 car. Let's see. Is he going to try and get a good exit coming out of turn number 2? Is he going to go for it into 3 and 4? Is he even going to risk it? That's the real question. We saw Wilkie slideways coming out of turn number 2. He's dropped back like a rock. I mean, he doesn't really need to finish in front of these two. He's still winning it in the Spec 2 category as it stands currently. But Green, looking at him. Adrian going off the track, though, heading down into 3 and 4. I was just going to mention the fact that Green had lost out on some time, but it looks like Adrian went tit for tat with him in that regard. I think Ian Joyner just crossed the start-finish line to win this race. 9.8 seconds in front of Daniel Tufts. Looking at these drivers battling tooth and nail slideways, heading through just about every single corner around this final lap. These track conditions are terrible.
Look out,
these
though, because here comes
tire
Wilkie.
temperatures are horrible. Here comes Wilkie. I think he's just not close enough to get a move done for the time being. You can see him risking it, heading down into turn number 10. Such a hard braking zone for these racers. I'm curious, though. I think we may not see a move from Green on Adrian. We may, however, see a move from Wilkie on Green. So we may see that fight flare up between those two racers. They're going to be hanging through turn number 13 into the final corner of 14 for the last time in this race. And unless one of these drivers go off the track, I think they're going to stay line astern. And Wilkie going to be rounding the final corner. Maybe holding on to 8th. Maybe getting a move done on Green for 7th. Adrian going to finish in 6th. And it looks like those two going to finish line astern with Green in 7th and Wilkie in 8th. That was a beautiful finish to the end of that race. Wilkie with some championship implications, trying to seal the deal in that Spec 2 Class Championship, just found himself in the midst of an absolute hornet's nest.
Yep, very quickly here, we did not cover any of the leaders crossing the line because there wasn't a battle. You can see Ian Joyner won by 10 seconds, Daniel Tufts in second, James Berry 9 seconds behind him with Ditchburn, McConnell, Adrian, and then that's where it got hairy, and that's why we watched it between Adrian, Green, and Wilkie. They're now doing the 3-wide salute Unbelievable racing by all three of those drivers. Great display of racecraft. And let's be honest, we talked about Kevin Adrian the whole race, Ron, and those alternative lines. And also in the chat real quick, I got a couple things to say. Those alternative lines that Adrian was taking, caught him out one time. After that, he was fine. Now we've got at least Jason Green posting up, ready for the final lap shenanigans. Very quickly, you called Jason Green conceited there, Ron, and Russell Tilker called you out and said, words are hard. I don't think you meant conceited, Ron. I think you meant conservative.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, when you're talking at 1,000,000 miles an hour covering this fast racing action out there on track, I mean, I've said some very odd things on the air. So, oh boy, that we nearly just saw some very odd Formula 4 ritual there. Formula Ford ritual.
There we go.
Formula 4 race. Oh my God, what in the world have we just witnessed here? I am at loss for words as we see these drivers bang into each other. This is going to, oh boy, this is some National Geographic stuff right now. Watch, oh boy, and watch now as a territorial Formula Ford scares the other Formula Fords out of its environment using smoked donuts in the rain for whatever reason. Oh boy.
We do not want David Attenborough from you, Zippy. We want the real David Attenborough. Just because you guys are both British doesn't mean anything. But again, oh no, there's some mounting going on now. Anyways, I'm glad we got out of that. And we're going to go here to the race results while we have them now. Hopefully we get the results if everybody's crossed the line. Maybe. It's going to take a minute. So there it is. Ian Joyner, obviously your winner by 10 seconds. Again, nobody can hold a candle to this guy. And even if they could hold a candle, it would get put out by all the rain on the track today. So great drive by Ian Joyner. Daniel Tuffs there in second. James Berry coming home, rounding out your top three. Julian Ditchburn, Michael McConnell, Kevin Adrian, and Jason Green round out your top seven. All Spec 1. Joshua Wilkie comes home winner of Spec 2 by a long way from Bill Walker down there in 14th. But Alan DeGasis comes home your Masters winner, beats out Brad Cathcart by a few positions. So great points all there for Alan DeGasis, with Jorge Gonzaga coming home in 10th.
And rounding out your results is going to be Kane Lasky finishing this race in a heartbreaking 11th. Saw him come down pit lane twice in that race, so tough for Lasky to have that drama happen to him because he was on track for a really good spot. Maybe even finishing on the podium, but sadly things not going to materialize for him. The Aussie of Brad Cathcart going to finish right behind in 12th. Then we have Antonio Reese finishing in 13th, Bill Walker in 14th, Series Admin Stevie Ray finishing this race in 15th, Daniel Verone in 16th, Jason Grider finishing down in 17th. Then we have Jeff Wubker finishing this race in 18th. I apologize, Jeff. That is a really odd nickname that we have given him here. He's one of the last drivers to really finish anywhere near that checkered flag as Jorg Mani, Edgar Sanginelli, Jeff Jacobson, and Russell Telker all finish many laps down. Mani, the one finishing 11 laps down. The last of the drivers to finish less than 20 laps down in this race, and that is, I believe, all of the other results that we have from this race. Gotta say, Ken Poulin, he took the start, but he didn't appear in any of our results. So Ken Poulin using that invisibility cloak, not on the racetrack, but just in our results tab. So some odd things going on here. But Adam, got some drivers waiting in the interview waiting area. Who do you like to have a chat with?
Well, let me take a gander here real quick. Let me get Discord pulled back up. And you know who I'm going to talk to. I am going to talk to our cohort here, Joshua Wilkie. Joshua, you got the S2 win, but it wasn't without some drama, my man.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a bit tough out there. Super apologies to Jorg. I think it felt to me like the rear end of my car was kind of hanging off the track, so I decided to just put it in reverse and back up, and I think he tried to go the long way around me, and I hit him. I sure you hit me, sorry. I should have just held my brake, and what it is, I felt pretty good out there again. I can't seem to get through one of these rain races without spinning. I have pace, and then I was right up against it at the end there. I had a 12X, so I just let everybody by me that was around me, and just so I could finish and get this win. But yeah, I mean, I love rain racing, but didn't go quite as smooth as I would have liked it to today for sure.
So when it comes to battling there towards the line, you had Kevin Adrian, my goodness, Jason Green, and you. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you knew at that point that Bill Walker had to come in to get some fuel. He hadn't stopped yet. Were you ever in the mindset to attack? Because we saw you back off, and then that final lap, you started to close it back in. Was that ever a chance for you? Did you ever think there was a chance to get two positions there?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much because I had the 12X at the end, I'm just waiting for those two maybe to make an accident. Not that I want to see it, I'd like to see people finish the race, but yeah, I'm just, Kevin and Jason fighting in front of me, so I'm just there to monopolize. Was I pushing? Not really. I had a bunch of pace today when it was full wet. I didn't practice around here in the rain at all, so I jumped in this morning and it was like, holy crap, it's raining. I had no idea what the drying track was like, and it was really, really challenging. I lost a ton of pace. All of a sudden, the track took off without me, and that's when I had my spin. But yeah, the full wet kind of suited me today. And as far as pushing, I was pushing, with that front group. But once I had that spin and that accident, I was just ready to. I just want to try to gain the points, so I can take the S2 win this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And leave it up to me here, Joshua, to not know, even though I'm a driver in these series, to not know what's coming up next week, I believe, for the final round of the season. Oh, it is Okayama. There you go.
Okayama and then Sakuba. I think we actually have 13 rounds this year because iRacing decided to do something weird.
Yeah, that's true. So we've got Okayama, Sakuba coming up. Wilkie, I think you've basically locked up the S2 championship, so you know what that means for next season, right?
Definitely, yeah. I'm looking forward to jumping into S1 for sure. I mean, I found a ton of pace from when I started this league, and I'm just stoked about it. I'm happy to get up there and race with the other guys and see what kind of pace I can find. So yeah, it's been great in S2. I'm glad to maybe wrap it up points-wise. That was kind of my deal today. I almost didn't do Rudskogen because I generally don't like this track.
Most people don't.
When I saw how close we were in the points there, I was like, hey, I got to jump in today and just see if I can't defend my points. And I did that, so I can probably relax a little bit more now and have some fun in the last two rounds that I'm looking forward to. So maybe not Sakuba as quite as much, but yeah, it'll be fun, right? It's a bit of a mayhem track, but we'll have a good time.
Well, I'm going to preemptively say congrats on your S2 championship and congrats on the most beautiful paint job on the grid. I don't know who made that paint for you, Joshua, but it is
Me neither, but man, he must be some handsome, well-painting guy.
Oh, man. I mean, now not handsome, but he can definitely paint some race cars. But anyways, Joshua, congratulations, and we'll see you here in about 30 minutes time for the SRFs.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. Broadcasts are always amazing. Thanks, and thanks to everybody out there. Sorry to Jorg again. My bad. I'll hold my break next time. Sorry, brother. Bye.
Let me do one more thing here, Joshua, because I forgot. Anybody you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just you guys, obviously, and my wife and anybody, people supporting me. My parents watch sometimes and stuff, and obviously all the drivers out there in S2 and S1 wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. And yeah, just amazing, super fun.
Absolutely, congrats, Joshua, and hopefully we'll be talking to you here in about an hour and a half.
Let's hope so. Have a good one, guys.
All right, that was Joshua Wilkie, winner of S2 and probably championship winner in S2 at this point. But Ron Maunz, I'm going to give you the guy who just can't seem to be caught. Ian Joyner, meet Ron Maunz.
Ian Joyner, this is Ron Maunz here. Gotta get the right pronunciation there. Hello, man. As Adam just said, I feel like you must have bathed in Vaseline or something because no one could catch you at all throughout this race. So talk us through a pretty dominant drive here at Rudskogen. I'm sure it looked easy from our perspective here in the commentary booth, but I'm sure with those track conditions, it was far from easy.
Yeah, exactly that. It was, such fine margins. I only just managed to make it onto pole the very late lap, otherwise it would have been miles harder. And then just got a little, got a good start, so I had a little margin, and then as soon as the guys behind were side by side, that always just makes that a bit easier. But in my head, I was just racing them the whole way, but on the clock, even if I wasn't wheel to wheel. And then that middle bit where it dries, it's so much harder to drive as well. That in between is harder than the full wet. So just trying to survive, really. I'm not sure how many people made it around without some kind of incident.
Not many, Ian. Not many.
Yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, just from our perspective in the commentary booth, it looked really, really difficult with those conditions. Cold tires probably being a big factor as well, considering how cold the track temperatures were. And you mentioned how the track was kind of in between, like, super soaked and like kind of dry, so just being in that bad window of really rough track conditions probably made this track, which is a little bit hard as is, probably made it just 10 times worse.
Yeah, it is hard. You're always chasing the rear end here, even in the dry, so it's really tricky. And I think you mentioned the tyres. I'm pretty sure the tyres literally get colder as you leave, because you start off with iRacing's got tyre warmers now, hasn't it? So it just gets harder to drive, and then when you get the dry bits, I've got quite an aggressive setup that works works all right when it's fully wet, but when your front end goes across a dry patch, it can really snatch the car around before you know.
Ian,
anything white.
I got a quick question for you here, Ian. Now that you're on that, and then I'll give you back to Ron. So we saw you and Kevin Adrian, a few drivers, taking some interpretive lines. I figured the paint was going to be an issue here, and it looked like as long as you got it right, it seemed like there was actually a bit more grip there on the painted surfaces around here.
I don't think there's more grip. I think it was just sometimes it's just not worth the distance going off it. So especially on some of the apexes, it's just not worth trying to go around it. But there's definitely not grip on it. But you can coast over it just to take a shorter route rather than trying to kind of get it around the outside of it.
Sure.
No, you definitely, if you brake or accelerate or anything across it, it doesn't end well.
Yeah, I gotta say, Ian, I remember my experience in karting back in the day. This one track we used to run at had a big metal plate going down most of it. It was this old disused airfield up here in southeastern Pennsylvania, and I remember driving across that in the rain in a kart, and it was just about as much of a terrifying moment as you could ever get behind the wheel.
You just get wheel spin down the straight.
I can imagine it was really brutal coming out of, especially a corner like turn number 10, trying to deal uphill. It's like a dog running on a freshly polished wood floor, so I'm sure that was really tough. Maybe hoping for the weather conditions to be better at Zandvoort in 1 week's time. So what are your thoughts heading into that race?
I enjoy the track. Yeah, I mean, it's a different race, isn't it, when it's wet? I think it's more fun when it's dry because you tend to get a bit more wheel-to-wheel action. It's almost potentially a bit of a time trial in the wet, but yeah, it's a fun track. I've not driven that layout. It's the one with the chicane, isn't it? Which will be the chicane at the after the bank corner, which this looks strange, but I'm sure we'll get used to it. We've got the officials this week, same place.
Yeah, I was just going to mention the fact that it's going to be running that odd chicane layout to kick off the month of December, but only 2 more races left to go from this season. You've been really fast to follow all throughout this season, and I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I said considering that most of these races always follow the real-life weather forecast, cold and rainy conditions seem to be your bread and butter, so we may have to keep a tabs on you for next season here from the Formula 4 Weekend Warriors. If I just jinxed you there, I would like to sincerely, wholeheartedly apologize in advance, man. But before we let you go, is there? But before we let you go, man, and celebrate this very well done drive at Rudskogen, is there anyone you want to give a thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, series organisers and you guys. Really, it's still pretty new to me. I'm still getting to know everyone, but it's a really nice, friendly series. So thanks everyone. Thanks to the drivers as well. It's been really good racing everywhere, and we're in a fortunate position to lap a few people, and they've all been really good about it. So yeah, thanks everyone.
And thank you for joining us in the commentary booth, Ian. Well done on a fantastic drive, and excited to see you back out on the racetrack for the rest of the season, man.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
And that right there was Ian Joyner, the driver who's victorious from this race here at Rudskogen. A really hard-fought day behind the wheel for a lot of these racers, and some pretty awesome action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. You know, speaking of, let's take a look at some of the broadcasts that we have coming up here on SM, because the action is just about every single day, it feels like, come time for the weekend. Coming up later on today, in fact, we got the Spec Racer Fords running at Maunz. You can catch Randall McGrew on the call with that. And Adam, are you going to be in the broadcast booth for that one as well, or am I?
Yeah, I still have not got over my overdevelopment last night. So yeah, I don't think I'm going to be driving on the track, let's say that. So I get to hang out with my old buddy Randall, and yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Oh boy, the Spec Racer Ford is always a really good spectacle in the Weekend Warriors world. Those cars put on some great racing action. Now, around a track like that, the Temple of Speed, that's going to be a really good race to catch coming up here in about less than an hour's time. In terms of some of the other Weekend Warriors action, the Formula V is going to be running at Laguna Seca this upcoming Saturday. The Formula Ford's next time out going to be kicking off the month of December at Zandvoort, and the Spec Racer Ford's going to be running their second to last race of the season at Suzuka. And it's coming up on December the 4th, but the other Esports Racing League going to be running GT4s at Circuit of the Americas for round 2 for group number 2. But let's move on to Pit Road Productions and the action from the Britannia iSports Series. If you want to catch some Radical SR10 or some Formula Ford action every single Wednesday night, look at that lineup of tracks as well. Donington, Detroit, Belle Isle to be a bit more precise, Spa, Canadian Tire, VIR. That's an awesome set of racetracks for that season, and you can catch all that action if you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to both Pit Road Productions and Slow Motion Broadcasting so you never miss out on any of the racing action. But Adam, that race today was absolutely fantastic. I feel like the Spec Racer Fords are going to be even better. Want to give a quick preview of that before we wrap things up?
Sure. I'm not going to be there. So I'm sure everybody out on track is going to be much safer. But no, I'm super excited for the SRFs. They always put on a good show. And one thing I do want to say before I go, Ian Joyner, that is the first time I've actually talked to that man. And I've been in this league for quite a while now. May have one of the most buttery British voices I've ever heard. So Ian, great voice, my friend. If you ever want a job here in commentary for Slow Motion Broadcasting, hit up Daniel Zippy Salmon because, that voice is gorgeous. But anyways, yeah, Ron, the SRFs are going to be amazing. Like always, Jason Green, SRFs, it's going to be close. I mean, and you've always got to deal with the fast driver, so it's going to be it's gonna be fun. And now we can see Zippy now starting to get a little bit zippy in the chat. So Ron, why don't you close us out here?
Yeah, I will close things up as I pull up Indeed and try and find myself a new job.
Hang on,
if Ian
Ron.
Joyner comes into the commentary booth.
I'm sorry, man. Yes, Tam, yes. We are going to have the racing line on Monday night. We've got a very special guest. Michelle Lynn is going to be joining us on Monday evening. Because of the holidays and everything coming up, people start making holiday plans on Tuesday, including me. I'm going to be on an airplane on the way to Indiana, so we are going to do it on Monday night. Please tune in for that. The racing line here is going to be a great time with former FV driver, real-life driver Michelle Lynn, and current sim driver in the FE, Michelle Lynn.
And she's also a fellow Philadelphian, so I will certainly be tuning in to that in just a couple of days. I say a couple of days. It's tomorrow. You can tell my sense of time is completely out of whack. But I think before I start spouting random prophecies about time that turn out to be completely accurate, I think we'll wrap things up from this broadcast here for round number 11 of the Formula Ford Weekend Warriors Season 4 of 2024. This race at Rudskogen was rain-soaked but incredible as well. But that just about does it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, Adam Thompson, joining me in the commentary booth, and Daniel Zippy Salmon working all of the comms and twisting your knobs in the virtual production hauler, I say thank you all so very much for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I feel like I'm going to have a very tense discussion with Zippy after this broadcast, after that joke. Take care, everybody, and now stay tuned for Randall McGrew and the Spec Racer Fords.
I see a Budweiser. Go ahead and hold it up.
Yes.
That was the biggest clue.
Yes, right
Doing
there.
it for Dale.
Man, it's so many gimmicks, right? I feel like they're making it a lot more complicated than it needs to be. I mean, a lot of people, you get polarizing opinions on DRS.
I know you guys know exactly what I'm talking about here, but sometimes the effort, it's all about the boys. You know, like, hey, you know, life sucks sometimes, and we need the boys.
iRacing kind of always has a tendency to kind of buff
Yes.
the new cars just a little bit. I'm not going to go on record saying it's because they want people to spend money on their platform and buy all the new content.
Confirmed.
But
Yes.
but
We are live for the first time on Slow Motion Broadcasting with the FF Weekend Warriors. We're at Sebring this weekend. It's going to be a blast. I saw a little bit of rain here in the practice session, but we'll get to that here in 1 second. My name is Adam Thompson. I'm joined in the booth by Randall McGrew.
With these three going right at it, we see you're getting really, really squirrely. There,
Oh, no!
Some contact. Oh no! Jurg and Antonio, the two Masters leaders, both with issues and now dropping down the order.
There's a dicing through the curbs. Our lead two. As that's Instaman just slossing it up the inside through McIntyre there. Beautifully done by the Icelandic driver as there's a big incident happened behind somewhere. Gonzaga losing a lot of places back.
Almost touching at that point. They're around there, heading into the closing stages of the track. Not quite there yet. Heading through what I'm calling the horseshoe, but let's not get into my drawing skills at this point. Nothing but clear track ahead of them at this point, so no one should be able to interfere in that battle. Side by side, nearly had contact there. That's going to put Kabanka on the inside for this next hairpin. This could be what decides it, and he's gone right on the outside, actually trying to cover off the car. I do wonder if Barry is going to be close enough to potentially slipstream. They've got 2 corners left to go. This is penultimate one now. Barry right up close, 0.3 of a second. I'm not sure it's going to be close enough, 0.2 of a second. He's got to keep his foot on that loud pedal. Catches a little bit of a curve, but has Kabanka done it? Barry going to the inside, and Kabanka gets it.